What's up, yo? So this video is going to be completely different than most videos that I make. This video is going to be me sharing some experiences that I've had with dreams, and it is kind of my way of putting this out there and hoping that maybe somebody might have more insight or can direct me in the right direction in terms of gaining more resources, so I can try to better understand this thing that happens to me. So for as long as I can remember, I have had this very unique and different connection, I guess you could call it, with the other side. I don't want to make it seem like I'm psychic or some medium or anything like that. Like, I have no idea what it is. I don't have control over it. It just kind of happens, and it happens in my dreams. So the earliest example of this that I have is when I was very, very young. I'm not quite sure what age I was. It was anywhere between the ages of like 2 and like 5. I vaguely remember having an argument with my parents where I insisted and would not back down that I had met my paternal grandmother, Mary. My grandmother, Mary, passed away when my dad was 13 years old. So her passing occurred long before I was even a thought or a consideration. But there was a picture of her. They still have that picture. It's on their mantle. And I looked at the picture and I said, I met her. It's my grandma. Like, I knew it was my grandma, but I met her. And they kept looking at me like, no, you haven't met her. And I argued, probably till my little face turned red, that I had met my grandmother. I was very persistent with my argument. I do not remember that dream. I was way too young. There are times when I feel like I vaguely remember the dream, but I'm not sure if it's actually an accurate memory or if it's some type of reinterpretation of what I think that dream may have looked like based upon the fact that I know I had that argument with them. So if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if it's an actual memory or if it's something that I have conjured up and made up in my head in order to fit the story of me arguing with them. So I don't know if that's a real memory or not. But I've had many encounters since then in my dreams that I do remember with a certain level of like accuracy. One of those was a dream where my great-grandmother, my father's grandmother, my grandma Lucinda, she came to me in a dream once, and it was as if, it was like when she popped up in the dream, it was as if she, like, this was like normal, like, oh, Grandma Lucinda's here. Like, it should have freaked me out, but it didn't. Like, when she popped up in my dream, I was like, oh, hey, Grandma. And she was like, hey. She was like, where's your mom? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I can tell her you're looking for her. She's like, yeah, please tell her I'm looking for her. I want to talk to her. And I said, okay. And I woke up from that dream, and my grandmother and my mom were very, very close. That's where my mom got some of her baking and cooking recipes from. They were very, very close. And I told my mom about that dream, and she was very like, whoa. Like, and I told her about that dream. But again, it was a dream where, like, I should have been like, what are you doing here? Like, you've passed away years ago. How did you end up in my dream? But it wasn't. We just were talking as if, like, it was completely normal. My papa My dreams of my pop are the most common. I have dreams with him in it more often than anybody else. And they are also the dreams that are the most vivid. I remember them a lot clearer than others. And I don't know if that's because they happened later in life. My grandfather passed away when I was 17 years old. It was 10 years ago, but the dreams that I have with him in it tend to be very monumental. So, first of all, the first dream I ever had with him took place the night/morning he died. My grandfather passed away on July 5th of 2009. And that night, when I was sleeping, so the night between July 4th and July 5th, I had a dream that I was sitting on the sidewalk on the curb, and there was a light behind me that was super duper bright. And it was so bright that I literally, anytime I tried to turn, I could not look behind me. It was blinding. And it was, in fact, so bright that I had to stare at my feet on the ground in front of me, because even on the peripheral of me, the light was so bright it hurt to look at. And so while I was staring at the ground in front of me, he tapped me on my shoulder, and I turned around and I looked up and I saw him, and I immediately stood up. I gave him a hug, and as we were hugging each other, he told me, "I love you and I'm proud of you." And then the morning of July 5th, I woke up and was being summoned downstairs to my living room, where all of my aunts, all my uncles, all my cousins were present. And immediately I knew this wasn't going to be good news. My grandfather was in hospice, so we kind of knew that his time was coming, but you never know exactly when. And so when I got downstairs, I saw everybody. I'm like, what is this? And that's when they told us all that he had passed away that morning. And I couldn't talk. I couldn't verbalize in that moment the dream I had. I just fell apart. I just started crying, this can't be real. This can't be happening. There's no way I just woke up from that dream and then this is what I'm being told. This can't be happening. On one end, I was completely just I was distraught, but at the same time, I was freaking out. What just happened? That was different. And I've seen him in my dreams several times since then. I saw him when I first moved to Indiana to go to Purdue, and he came to me my freshman year in the dream and was asking me how I was and if I was ready for school, if I planned on playing basketball. A lot of the times since then, when I see him in dreams, it's kind of him catching up with me. He just asks me how I'm doing, how's life going. And so over time, I've come to enjoy those dreams when I have them about him. And the most recent dream I've had was of my Nana. And I'm sure most of you know by this point that my grandmother passed away this year, November 10th. However, a month, 2 months in that range before she passed, I had a dream about her. In my dream, it started off with me talking to my grandmother, and she was kind of sad and was just asking me, when are you coming home? When am I going to see you? I miss you. When are you coming home? And I kept saying, Nana, I'm coming home. I'm going to see you. I promise I'm coming. I'm going to see you. That was a conversation we had a lot. And then my dream, I'm not sure if it really skipped or jumped or if I just remember it that way, but the next part of my dream that I remember is I was scrolling through my phone on social media and I started seeing posts from my family members popping up saying rest in peace with pictures of my grandma. And I became frantic. This is still in my dream. I became frantic. And I'm just like, I know that my grandma didn't pass away and nobody called me. I know I'm not finding out through social media, right? And then my dream kind of skipped again. And I was in the presence of my family. So I was physically around them. And I was infuriated. And I was hollering. And I was screaming. And I was hurt. And I was saying, how could y'all post about it and not tell me about it first? Like, why am I finding out on social media about my grandmother? Why did nobody tell me? I was like crying, everything. And it was like I turned and there was this wall full of like mirrors. It was like little square mirrors, but they made this big wall that kind of just looked like a big mirror. And I kind of blacked out and I just started punching each square, like dead set on each square. I would not stop punching the square until it shattered. If the square wasn't shattered, I wasn't done with it. And I was just going at each square. And my goal was to shatter every last one of them. And then I got to one square, I looked at it, and I was about to like rev up, punch it. And there was a particular individual whose reflection I saw, and they were standing behind me, and they said, stop. They're like, babe, stop, you're hurting yourself. And I was like, I kind of snapped out of it. I looked down at my hands, and I had shards of glass sticking out of my hands, and my hands were bleeding. And then that person took me to a sink and helped me wash my hands and helped me take each piece of glass out gently and then wrap my hands in bandages. I woke up from that dream and I was crying and I was angry. I started shouting, like literally, my neighbors may have heard me, but I was shouting at my ceiling, yelling at God, and I was like, don't do this to me. Like, I was infuriated. I was like, don't you do this to me. You do this to me every time. Don't do this to me. And I text my mom. It was like 2:30 in the morning. I text my mom and I said, hey, how is Nana? And my mom was kind of like in awe. She's like, wow, what made you ask that? And I was like, I just had a dream that Nana passed away and I wanted to make sure she was okay. And my mom said, she's okay, but I'm in her room with her right now. She woke up crying, saying that somebody told her it was time to go home. And I started bawling. Like, my face was wet, like soaked. And I had to pull myself together because I ended up FaceTiming my grandma that night. And the moment I got on FaceTime with her, she started crying. And I had to hold it together because I didn't want her to. I obviously wasn't going to tell her about the dream that I had, but I had to hold it together. And I know one of the last conversations I had with my grandma, she was at home with my sister, and my sister texted me and asked me if I was busy. I'm like, no, I just got home. Like, what's going on? And she's like, Nana's crying because she's trying to figure out how you're all the way in Indiana. She said she remembers sitting on the couch with you yesterday, and I had to FaceTime her, and I had to talk with her and explain to her, like, I wasn't with you yesterday. We were on FaceTime. For those of you who don't know, my grandmother was suffering from dementia, and so her memory was really going, and she was recalling things from years ago and thinking that they happened yesterday, and it was really messing with her. And so she was really upset by it, and so we had to talk it out, and it kind of helped her jog her memory that, yesterday we were on FaceTime. I wasn't with you, but I was talking to you, and we did talk about me coming home for Thanksgiving. And so she kind of felt a little better about that. And then we had a conversation about me coming home for Thanksgiving about like 5 times. And obviously, we didn't get there. She passed away right before Thanksgiving. And it's like, I don't know what these dreams are, or like, I don't have control of them. They kind of just happen to me. And for a long time, they've been something that I've been afraid of. And I don't know if it's like a gift. Sometimes it feels like a curse. I don't know. It's just really interesting because I feel like I've had this my entire life. Like these experiences have happened my entire life, and even if it's not like a vivid dream, it's a gut feeling. I've had gut feelings that somebody has left or somebody is missing, somebody's not here anymore, and then I'll get news that a family member has passed away, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's like some divine connection or if that's like me just being really close and really tight with like my my family, and like I don't know. But if anybody has any information about it, please shoot it to me. I would like to learn more about it and understand it more if possible. I've tried for a long time to like run away from it, but I feel like it's something that maybe I need to start taking heed to. And I don't know if embrace is the correct word, but like running from it obviously hasn't stopped it from happening. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. If anybody has had similar situations or if anybody has information or anything, let me know, please. I'm trying to figure this out.